good?
Yeah.
Right, did you get it down, Judge?
Yes, I did.
Awesome, awesome. All right, 5 minutes on the clock. Opponent ready?
Yeah.
Judge ready?
Yes.
All right. 2 more to go, or maybe 4 for you, Judge. I'm not sure. But only a couple more. At least it's dark outside. I understood that you're a doctor, so I've always wanted to say this on camera. What's up, Doc? You know. Hey, but heard a lot of good things about you, so we're really excited about today's round. Resolution reads: the U.S. is facing a French Revolution of its own. Definitions are important, and so is a weighing mechanism. Facing is basically moving towards, and then to contextualize the definition as a whole, it's not the affirmative burden to say every single specific thing that happened with the French Revolution is going to happen here in America. Obviously, they had a king. We don't have a king yet, at least. So that specifically won't be applicable. Overall, we're basically going to say when it comes to economics, social, and political norms, the same way the French 250 odd years ago overthrew those norms, political, economic, and social, we are facing or on the path of doing the same here in America. I'm not saying this is 100% going to happen. If France made different decisions in 1789, King Louis still might have it. Well, he wouldn't be alive, but he would, at least would die with his head connected to his shoulders. Same thing with Marie Antoinette. We can change some of these decisions and stop this kind of revolution from happening, but if we don't course correct right now, unfortunately that is, we're headed according to the affirmative. The weighing mechanism is basically balance of probabilities. If you think as we're headed right now, we're moving towards those huge parallels that I'm going to draw, cast a ballot for me. If not, feel comfortable casting that ballot in favor of the negation. I've got 3 contentions for you today: economic parallels, social parallels, and political parallels. Let's get in that first contention of economics. Steve Bannon, the chief strategist to Donald Trump, said literally yesterday to the New York Times that the United States is a modern techno-feudalistic system. Now, the feudalist system that happened in France before they overthrew that form of economics was they were what we call lords who controlled all the land and all the property. If you wanted to start a business, you wanted to farm, you wanted to hunt, or do anything in the modern economy of France, you had to go to those lords, cut them in on the profit since they owned all the land, and basically they had to get a piece of the action. The same is applicable when it comes to technology today, because let's say you want to start a business. Let's say you want to post a debate. Let's say you want to, get your brand out there. You've got to cut in the modern lords who were just behind Donald Trump at the inauguration 10 days ago when it comes to YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, or Twitter as we formerly know it. There's almost impossible to get your message out to get a business off the ground without giving them the piece of the action, because they control so much of the new land, essentially, which is platforms like Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. Steve Bannon said the same thing, but also we've seen similar sentiments coming from the left side of the political aisle, from congresspeople like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the former socialist Greek finance minister from 2010, have all used that term of techno-feudalism. Unheard in 2022 said, when it comes to fiscal impropriety, revolutionary France has nothing on modern America. U.S. debt is worse, U.S. inequality is worse, and those are the things that led to the serfs, essentially, in revolutionary France wanting to overthrow that system. And the analysis here is all those things are incessantly worse here in modern America than they were in pre-revolutionary France. We've got to make a change. Some more parallels highlighted here is there's an increase in violence as an accepted form of political protest. Think about storming of the Bastille when they overtook the Royal Bastille in the revolutionary France. Think that and compare it to storming of the Capitol, and 1,500 of those people were just pardoned literally 10 days ago. That's more accepted. Deindustrialization. This has been a big theme for pretty much my entire life, where industry and manufacturing has left America the same way it's left France. Feudalism, we talked about this. Apathy, distrust of leadership and institutions, and extreme wealth inequality. Social. Age of Revolutions talks about, and this is contention number 2, disinformation was one of the key pillars of revolutionary France, because the printing press came around and you could basically get people to believe fake news or disregard truth as a whole, where they had more fake news, more debt, they would not accept the little elections that they had at the time, and they were in a constant state of war. Does that sound like America, at least for our lifetimes? The unfortunate reality is yes, so we need to change how we approach this. Also, some of this inequality and wealth is much more in your face. Marie Antoinette said, let the peasants eat cake in 1791. Now we see people like Jeff Bezos that will constantly flaunt their wealth, go go on a yacht in the south of France, put it all over social media, and put that kind of wealth in your face. The third is the political. We also see come from the Royal Museum. They talk about the Bastille storming is connected specifically to a parallel to January 6th. We could also see that killing the royals, King Louis, Marie Antoinette is very similar to the increase in assassination attempts. And also we're moving more and more towards a kingship with people trying to get rid of term limits, which was just introduced in Congress last week, and the immunity clause that the Supreme Court just gave our president a couple months ago. Thank you. You want the podium?
No.
Right.
So, 2 minutes of cross-ex. Judge, ready?
Ready.
Thank you, Okono, for such a wonderful speech. But I have a couple of questions I would like you to go on. Can you go on your contentions and taglines again?
Yeah, first contention is economic. We're talking about parallels for each one of these. Second is social. It would be social parallels. And the third are political parallels, drawing what happened in revolutionary France, comparing them, giving analysis to how they compare with the path we're unfortunately going down here today.
Okay. So when it comes to social, parallels, can I go into that again?
Yes, one was the proliferation of disinformation. It was the printing press back then. It happens more on social media right now, where people can't really ascertain what's true or what's not. What truth is depends on which source they listen to. That applied to pre-revolutionary France. It applies to us today. The second is not accepting election results, not respecting institutions of government, being also in a constant state of war.
So do you agree that there are more structures now that can be put in place to ensure that fake news is reduced? There are more structures now than before.
No, I wouldn't agree, especially with some of the things that we've seen literally over the past.
So basically now there are no structures to filter or to bring out or to ensure that fake news is not distributed across. There are zero structures, that's what you're saying.
I'm not saying there are zero, but I'm saying there are less than the past.
Okay.
Especially given some
but there are more now than the past.
Depending on what you define as the past. The past as in
No,
2-3 years ago?
We mean French Revolution, of course.
I would actually say, no, I'd actually disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so my last question for you is, with regards to the Bastille story, you said it's more political, but are the systems the same now? Could an individual who was on the street wake up one morning after a couple of years get to the level of the highest ranking individual in the land, or maybe next to that individual? Can I be born today and within 5 years or 15 years become a royal just in the feudal times, or have to be born a royal to get to the place of authority?
So even in Judge, can I answer, or you want me to wrap it? It's up to you. Wrap it? Gotcha. Thank you.
Opponent ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay, so 6 minutes on the clock.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jeff, for being here. Thank you, opponent, for being here. And to my first response to my opponent's statement, hi, doc, is hello, patient, how are you doing? So I'd like to start that I agree with my opponent's way mechanism, with his definitions and his way mechanism. I'd like to start by addressing his contention. His first contention was economic imbalance. Now, previously, in his own words, the laws controlled everything. That before you could, purchase a property or start, farm or anything, the laws controlled the land and made correlation with it that today, in today's social media era, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are all controlled by people. And in his words, in the feudal times, they would have to pay to send a message across or to start a business. But I don't have to pay to start a business. In fact, I could open an Instagram account now and title my business Ephraim Shoes or Dr. Ephraim's whatever, and actually post flyers there and tell people about it and share the flyers across. Who am I paying? No one. So it's even better now because I don't have to pay anyone. I don't have to pay anyone to make people know about my business. I could literally print out flyers, go about and share it to people to make people aware of what the business I'm having. So with this idea, with this contention, I also talked about social parallels, that there's increase in violence as a form of political protest. Increase in violence as a form of political protest has always existed through time. Not during the French time. In fact, even look at various revolutions that have happened. Even, let's not talk about the revolutions, even in our normal daily lives, when people realize that justice is not being done the right way, or maybe things are not going the way they want, they tend to go in the area of violence. Will we say that's a form of revolution? Even as kids, even as adults, when we feel that something wrong is being done, we'll stand up and speak against it. Is it revolution? Or maybe decide to go on a strike. Is it revolution? We may take placards and go about. Is it revolution? No, we want something to be done about. You can't say that amounts to what? A revolution. Also made known the issue of what? Deindustrialization and the distrust of what? Leadership and equality. Though I agree with the fact that America for the past 20 years has seen a shift of its industries to outside lands, but also that Trump is bringing that back. Trump is bringing that back. Trump is bringing back American jobs. In fact, is encouraging that what? Highly skilled personnel from other countries should come and set up companies in America. That's why he's giving tax cuts to what? To these large corporations that happen to be in America to encourage people to what? To start jobs. Also talk about the issue of what? Distrust of leadership and what? Equality in regards to what? Printing press and fake news. People have never trusted leadership completely throughout history. We can take a survey today, and in fact, there's my stat from the CBS News says that political distrust is a common thing among various populations beginning from the eons of time, which was April 2023. That's my source from PBS News. People have never given authority the complete trust. It's something that existed before the French Revolution, something that existed in my country now. We have a new president in power and people don't, and not everyone trusts him. Because if everyone trusts you, why should we vote? We could all say, become the president. We all trust you. But there are definitely people who ain't going to vote for you. Also talked about the issue of what? Fake news. And there are structures today. In fact, Judge, if you go on X.com, formerly Twitter, and type any fake news, there's something called community notes, which you properly say, this news is fake, this video is fake, and give reasons why it is fake. So in fact, there are better avenues for dealing with fake news. In fact, Facebook itself has come out, the CEO Mark Zuckerberg has come out and said they're going to put strategies in place to deal with what? Fake news. I'm not saying fake news is not a problem. Fake news has always been a problem, but there are better strategies now to deal with fake news. In case I read something, I'm like, oh, this is actually fake. There are notes, there are people, or there are strategies in place to let me know that what this news is fake, so that what I don't get emotional and react to it. Also, my opener also talked about let people eat cake. And Judge, my response to that is I could go into Walmart and buy cake. There's more cake now. We're talking about the political ambassador story regards to term limits. Term limits will exist. In fact, the American government is not saying the end of term limits. No. They are not saying the end of term limits. Term limits will exist. Trump will eventually leave office. They are going to have another president. Term limits exist. Now, Judge, I'd like to do with my contention. My first contention is America is not France. That there's a difference in governments. During then, they had what? The monarchy, the feudal government, and which had different standards. In fact, Judge, during those times, I could, a peasant like me, a commonplace person like me, couldn't become anyone working with the government or in the royal area because I was not born one. But in this age, though I'm here, I'm not a citizen of America. My child, who becomes a citizen of America eventually, can eventually become the president of America, just like Obama did. Can that happen back then? No. They would let you know, you're not royal, you're out of this game. So the commonplace people feel like, oh, I'm exempted for this. Why should I be exempted? They will feel a need to rebel. But in this place now, that doesn't exist. The commonplace person can't get to the level of what? The highest level of what? Presidency. And my first contention, my second sub-point is better surveillance. In fact, the US now has better surveillance structures to monitor the people than France did. So if there's any riot happening at a location, US has better military power. They could send the military there to deal with it. My second contention is different terms and conditions. That the societal norms then are different from now. They had what? Peasants and nobles then. And Judge, it is easier for a monarch to say this is the law. But if Trump tries that, the Congress will impeach him. I believe with all this, the branch will be voted in favor of the neck. Thank you.
Okay, Connor ready?
Yeah.
Judge ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2 minutes on the clock. What's up, Doc?
Fine.
All right, so you talk about that you don't have to pay Instagram. You could go make an account. But how does Instagram make money?
Instagram makes money by people who choose to place ads
Yes.
They choose to place ads. They
But-
choose to place ads.
Yeah, I'm asking for example. Let's say you have 100 posts on this new Instagram account.
Yes.
If I'm scrolling down that Instagram account,
Yes.
am I going to see ads on your page or not?
You're not going to see ads on my page.
No. Not necessarily saying on your page, but if I'm scrolling and you're the only account that I follow, I'm scrolling in my For You page.
Yes.
Am I going to see ads? Even if they're not from you, am I going to see ads from Instagram, even though I'm only consuming your content?
Probably. Maybe, maybe not. For that, I can't tell.
Got you, perfect. So you also talked about that political violence has always existed. Yes, I agree, but is there a difference between political violence always existing versus political violence being accepted or even promoted? Are those two different things?
No, they're not different. For political violence to exist, a group of people have to accept it. Because people will not use a route that they do not accept when they know it's going to bring results.
Gotcha. Is the analysis that you're putting forth essentially people still don't accept political violence, or are you saying people have always accepted political
I
violence?
think people don't always accept political violence.
Gotcha. Could we at least agree that now, February now, 2025, there's more of an acceptance for political violence
No.
than there has been in the past?
No.
There's not?
Yes, because if there were, they wouldn't have been prosecuted in the first place.
Got you. So everybody around the 2,000 people who stormed the Capitol around
Yes.
4 years ago, what just happened to them less than 2 weeks ago?
A group of people decided to pardon them, but that does not mean that everyone accepted it.
Yes, okay. You also talked about that in America, actually rephrase. You talk about X has community notes. Is there a difference between community notes and fact checking on both Twitter and Facebook or Instagram?
They're the same thing.
Community notes?
Yes, yes. Community notes are basically fact checking.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. All right, opponent ready? Judge, you ready? All right, got to start where we left off there in cross-examination. I wanted to cover that in his cross-examination. The reason I wanted to talk about Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk when it comes to community notes on both Facebook and Twitter is Mark Zuckerberg literally just went on Joe Rogan's podcast less than 2 months ago, gave direct to the camera and said, we, as Meta, Facebook, are removing fact-checking in favor of community notes. That means there's less fact-checking than there are before, and we can't buy the analysis of really either me or my opponent. We've got to buy the exact words from Mark Zuckerberg, who owns the platform, who says, we are getting rid of fact-checking. Direct quote to the camera. So that's important. He talks about on IG that I don't have to pay to be on Instagram, for example, but I asked and clarified in cross-examination, they are still making money off of your content. And he even talked about if I want to start a business or sell t-shirts, for example, I'm going to start a page on Instagram. The analysis that I talked about in my first speech is you've got to go on Instagram, you've got to go on YouTube to get your name out there in the first place. The same way you had to talk to a lord just to be able to hunt or sell in pre-revolutionary France, you've got to go on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook if you want to launch a successful business in the year 2025. The parallels are absolutely striking. He says political violence has always existed. I tried to clarify as if they're accepted. In the analysis about Donald Trump winning the election, actually winning the popular vote this time, promising that he's going to pardon 2,000 people who literally beat cops, performed an insurrection, as some might say, or at least tried to storm the Capitol, same way they did in pre-revolutionary France. It was accepted by the populace because we still voted for him, and he went and pardoned all these people where it has much more support than if something like that happened years ago. The parallels and the trends are what we need to value and analyze here more than anything else. He says that people have never completely trusted leadership. I absolutely agree with this, but the analysis that my opponent misses is people trust leadership significantly less now than they did decades before, between the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. We see in pre-revolutionary France, as things start to heat up, no one always trusted government inherently, but they trusted it significantly less as that violence started to be exacerbated. The same parallel that applied then applies today. That's the analysis and the trends. We just talked about Facebook versus community notes and fact-checking, why they're not exactly the same thing. And he actually goes, when it comes to cake, I could go to the store and I could buy cake. But I don't think my opponent realizes that's making the point of the let them eat cake comment. They said, Marie Antoinette, what do you have to say about all these peasants who literally have nothing to eat? She said, let them eat cake. Go buy cake. But the analysis that he misses is if you can't afford cake, you can't afford bread, you can't buy cake. It shows how out of touch some of these individuals are. And remember, the first contention talks about our wealth inequality, our poverty rates are significantly worse today than they were in pre-revolutionary France. That analysis is absolutely important. He talks about that America is not France. and he says we're better civilized in different conditions. I talked about this all in the top case, none of which the negative objected to. I'm not saying we have to have an exact comparison. We don't have a king, they had a king. What we're saying is the parallels and the trends are strikingly similar.
Thank you.
So, starting. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Thank you, the opener, for such a wonderful speech. Thank you, Judge, for being here. And this is going to be the last time we're going to hear him speak as the neck. So I'd like to start by addressing some of the things my opponent said. He made a statement that getting rid of community notes and introducing what fact-checking. But did he say why? Why did Mark Zuckerberg say that? Mark Zuckerberg knows there's fake news. But if Mark Zuckerberg has decided, let's take out community notes and introduce fact-checking, why? Because he realized that maybe fact-checking is better than what community notes. This brings me back to my point of saying what there are better structures of filtering fake news out than before. There are better structures, which he himself agrees and mentions that community notes exist, fact-checking exists. He agrees to it. It's unlikely that I'm going to see something, get so emotional about it, when actually there's evidence that says under the post that this post is false. Actually, this didn't happen. Okay, fine. So I've read. I now understand that this actually is what fake news. But we also address the issue of what that Instagram, that you have to go to Instagram. But how many brick and mortar businesses are on Instagram? People who come from out of US and come set up, this 7-Eleven shops here and there. And 7-Eleven is an amazing business. 7-Eleven has thrived and has become a chain, or let me say a corporation. But do you see 7-Eleven on social media? No. You didn't actually need to go to Facebook or Instagram. No. You can have a successful business without going to any of these people. But opening things that we always have to go to the Frudo Lords, tell them and beg them. No, not necessarily, Judge. I could start a business, even shoes or whatever, and literally not post on Instagram. I can say, I'm not in social media, and literally people also come because the word of mouth has always existed then, will exist now. Robinson also talks the issue about people not trusting leadership. And thank you, the opponent, so much, because he agrees that people don't trust leadership. It's not a matter of now, not of tomorrow. People have never trusted leadership. So this is not a reason that is going to be like, because we don't trust leadership, now it's going to be what? Going to spark a revolution. No. Distrust of leadership has always existed. And with regards to his point of let them eat cake, he says that we are out of touch with reality. That when a lady was asked, what should the peasants do? Allow them to eat cake. Take note that the peasants did not have access to the materials that could grant them cake. We have it now. Job availability is better now. Things are better now. I could literally walk into Walmart and get the ingredients to get cake and decide to make cake. In the past, only the feudal lords, only the princes, royals had that special access. That special access doesn't exist anymore. In fact, let me use the issue of cake as what? As maybe special dishes. I could go and get what? A special dish, maybe a very expensive dish, and get it for myself now, Judge. Anyone could go and do that now, work for a couple of maybe hours or minutes or days, get the amount of money and afford it. But back then, it wasn't a matter of how much you had. It was limited. The keyword was limited. And in this phase, it is what? Unlimited. You could go out there and get cake and get whatever you want. Judge, at this moment, I'd like to start talking about my voters. So my first voter is that America is not France. America is not, has not, and will not be France. We have a different system here. In fact, as I was saying earlier, if the monarch then had made it, look, all lords, all holders of land and all farmers are going to pay 40% extra in taxes to me, no one can stand up against it. No one. But if Trump decides that Congress can say, no, we are not doing that, and if he tries to make any law that they do not agree, they can impeach him. Back then, who could impeach the monarch? No one would dare try such a thing. My second voter is different terms and what? Conditions. Different terms and conditions. Judge, the conditions that exist now are way different than before. I believe that the beauty of America is that someone not born in America can come here, become extra successful, and in fact have children to go into the range of authority. Back then, it didn't matter whether you had immigrated or were born in the land. As long as you were not a royal, you could not become a president, a monarch, or even get into their chambers. It was not allowed. But now we have access. Now we have all this. Why would people want to destroy all this just because they don't have the opportunity? The opportunity exists. And my third voter is what? Military strength. There's a better military strength now than before, and it can be controlled. My fourth voter is that my opponent failed to what? Talk about military strength, terms and conditions as well. He dropped all these points. So I believe the round should be voted in favor of the NEC. Thank you.
All right, last 3 minutes. You ready?
Yeah.
Judge, you to go? All right, last one. Or maybe, I don't know if you got it right. If so, God bless. It's getting dark. I'm getting tired. But let's get in. Actually, I want to talk about what he said right at the end and re-emphasize some of the things that we talked about earlier. He goes, and I quote, I put this in quotations, who could impeach the monarch in revolutionary France? One, we didn't successfully impeach Donald Trump, as he said we would. But literally, King Louis, before he was killed, they didn't call it impeachment, they called it suspension at the time, suspended by the National Assembly of France. So even if we're going to buy the argument of who would impeach the monarch, the French National Assembly literally did, and then they cut off his head, then they cut off his wife's head, and then they killed his children. Like, who would go after these monarchs? The French did, because they wanted to overthrow the system, because they were that unsatisfied. And I'm saying with some of the trends and parallels we're seeing today, people are so dissatisfied that they want to overthrow the system the same way that the French did. Now, his first voter is America is not France. He talks about one that we have a king. Or excuse me, France had a king, we don't have a king. I literally said that in the first minute of my first speech. There's no way you could compare any revolution to another revolution. France, Russian Revolution, Spain's Revolution, any of those kind of revolutions. But what we're seeing when the words come, its own version. That's what's in the text, and that's what we need to analyze. Do the parallels add up? Do the trends look the same? And all the evidence coming from the expert analysis show that at a social level, a political level, an economic level, we are already moving down the path of pre-revolutionary France. He goes, why did Zuckerberg change? One, there's a new administration. You wanted to make the old administration happy. Now there's a new administration. But Zuckerberg explicitly said, we are getting rid of fact-checking, meaning they're not the same thing. It's a direct quote that you can take to the bank. He said, how many brick-and-mortar businesses are on Instagram? Almost all of them that are still in business. And he gives the example of 7-Eleven. I'd like to add, since this was brought up in last week, 7-Eleven literally has social media accounts. That proves the affirmative point that that's the new way to do things under the new techno-feudalistic lords that we have on Instagram, TikTok, all these other types of platforms that you cannot start a successful business. It's damn near impossible to do so without getting access to those accounts. He talks about that people have never trusted leadership. Analysis, again, goes to the trends. Yes, people have never completely trusted leadership, but they trust it a lot less today than they did 40, 50 years ago. That also was applicable to late 1780s in France. They trusted leadership then, under King Louis, less than they did years before. So, a couple voters. The first are those parallels on a social level, on an economic level, and on a political level. We see violence being much more accepted. We see wealth inequality being much, much worse. He talks about that you go and you can have the resources to buy cake, but he misses the analysis is that the American people, because of wealth inequality, are in less of a position to buy cake than some of the serfs or servants during pre-revolutionary France, because wealth inequality and poverty is significantly worse today. The last voter is just hammering home those trends. Those are the important things that we should analyze in today's round and hopefully lead to an affirmative ballot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fun as always. Well, we're not as always, but for good things, man. Righteous. Oh, thank you so much. You have a good one.
You do.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dad.
Have a nice night, you too.
Hey, dear.
You got
Thanks.
two more?
No, I don't know. It
Okay.
depends.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We got an early day tomorrow too. So.
So guys, let me say this about him. This guy, this guy, he's one of the people I really admire.
Oh, I feel the same way about you.
I heard a lot about him before I met him.
Oh, hopefully more good things than bad.
Sure.
Hopefully the trends about me were positive.